Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode of But Is It Power Pop? I am SPAZ and let's get started. First things first, this is not available on CD, but since I do not own the vinyl, I'm going to show you an unofficial version of the album on CD, but you need to really check it out. If you're thumbing through the records and you come across this, it's one you need to own. It is the Keys album. This is power pop at its finest. This was an album that came out produced by Joe Jackson, and it sounds like, it's got this sort of condensed, almost monaural sound to it, and it sounds like it was, could have been recorded in the 60s, but it is just great power pop. For Paul McCartney and Wings fans, you might be interested in the fact that Jeff Britton, the drummer of the band, was the drummer of Wings during the Junior's Farm era. So, but otherwise, Drew Barfield is the main guy here, and he's a great songwriter, great vocalist, and this is definitely something, if you come across this in the record bins, you need to check it out. Definitely. Drew Barfield, by the way, is now a member of Los Pacaminos with Blue-Eyed Soul vocalist Paul Young. They are a British Tex-Mex band. Now let's talk about Mod. This is Secret Affair. Secret Affair are not power pop. In fact, a lot of times I call it power pop with British accents. But Secret Affair's case, they were great songwriters. In fact, they still are. They're still together. They put out an album a few years ago. Great songwriters, but they're more on probably like the rhythm and blues soul side of Mod. So they got great melodies and they got great crunchy chords, but they don't jangle, and there's no big wonderful three-part harmonies or anything, but it is great pop nonetheless. This is the back of the CD. This contains tracks from the first three albums as well as rarities and non-album unreleased tracks. There is a box set on Captain Oi through Cherry Red that contains the three albums plus their reunion album. So you get pretty much almost everything that's on this. But there is a bunch of great things there for you to love and for you to snuggle with. In the late 70s and early 80s, Blondie was really big, and all the labels were looking for their Blondie. Out of the UK comes a band called The Photos, and it was pretty much similar to what Blondie was doing, but they're a female-fronted power pop band that are definitely worth your while. 2 albums on Cherry Red now with bonus tracks. I'll show you those here. And you'll see that. The Photos, definitely very Blondie influenced power pop from the UK. Definitely check them out. From the Not Lame label, a band that some thought were maybe a little too AOR for power pop, and then the AOR people thought they were too power pop for AOR. So, what do you think? This is Hawks. This is a collection of unreleased tracks that the band had recorded during their heyday. They had 2 albums out on Sony. Both of them are great. One of them is a little slicker than the other, and but this here, it does actually feature liner notes by me in there somewhere. But this is a collection of unreleased recordings on the Not Lame Records label, Bruce Brodeen. Hawks, definitely a great band to check out. Great Midwest power pop. If you are a fan of girl group stuff, definitely check out the Pipettes. This is the British cover. This is the first album, We Are the Pipettes. Very much, they were doing what Maury Wilson was doing in the 80s, what Tracy Ullman did on her early records. Very Motown-y girl group sounds. This is the UK version. The American had a completely different cover, and it also had a few extra tracks. So you may want to track that down. But either of these, if you like that girl group sound, this was from the, I think the early 2000s, and definitely worth your time because there are a lot of great tracks contained on those albums. There is a traveling power pop festival that started many years ago in LA, and it was inspired by the first Power Pop festival that was called Poptopia. And there are a total of, to my knowledge, 3 different Poptopia compilations. You can see them right there. I'm trying to show them to you. And these contain a lot of great bands. In fact, this one here is how I first got introduced by the music. This one here is how I first got introduced to the music of my now friend Barry Holdship. And he's got a great song called Twist of Faith on there. But also like Wonder Boy and lots of other bands were discovered on this. And these are bands, obviously, that play, Martin Luther Lennon, a.k.a. Tony Perkins. These are great collections here. In fact, let me show you. You might have to pause to see those. Pause your thing there. And then that's volume 1. That's 97. This is 98. And this is 99. Poptopia ended when IPO began. And Poptopia, there was such a great energy about it because it was the first time somebody was doing something like that. So a lot of great memories, a lot of great music. Definitely contain those. So if you can track those down, I would highly recommend it. One of my favorite albums of the last few years is The Legal Matters. I know I've talked about it before, but I always like to remind people this: their music contains elements of Jellyfish, Big Star, Matthew Sweet, lots of great bands like that. But this is just really a stellar album from beginning to end. The 3 members, Andy Reid, he has solo records under an American Underdog, as well as he's doing a lot of production and mixing and mastering these days. Chris Richards from the band has Chris Richards and the Subtractions, and they just put an album last year. And Keith Klingensmith, he has Future Man Records, and they're putting out a lot of great records and stuff. But this right here, Legal Matters, it is just stellar. Some absolutely great memories attached to this record, and it's only a few years old. And let me see here. Finally, we're going to talk about something. It's a tribute album. It's a collection. It is White Lace and Promises. That is the songs of Paul Williams. It is a release that is on the Curry Cuts label. Features a lot of great bands like the Davenports and the Corner Laughers, and even a solo track by Carla Kane. There's also Zach Jones. There's Andy Reid, who I spoke about a few minutes ago from Legal Matters. There's also Michael Simmons and the Test Pressings, and lots of great things. Paul Williams not only wrote songs like We've Only Just Begun, but he also wrote like Evergreen, and he wrote a lot of the Muppets music, and all that stuff is going to be contained here. Paul Williams, a great songwriter that I can't say enough good things about. In fact, I love him so much that I have a bunch of the Paul Williams solo albums on CD. These are all things that you should own in your collection because A, he is Paul Williams, B, he is Paul Williams, and C, he is Paul Williams. He's definitely somebody that demands your attention, and he certainly has my attention. He's had my attention since I heard him when I was a little kid. My mom used to collect or play Paul Williams albums when we were kids. But Curry Cuts, like I said, the tribute to Paul Williams, White Lace and Promises, is fantastic. Curry Cuts is best known for things like they've got a tribute to light rock called Drink a Toast to Innocence. That is actually what some people now call yacht rock. So it's like stuff from the late 70s and a lot of great bands and artists on that. They've also got Here Comes the Rain Again, which was a collection of 80s top 40 hits reinterpreted today. They've got Bond songs, which is reinterpretations of James Bond themes. And also Curry Cuts released the Brandon Schott album as well. This is very sort of Baroque indie pop and will certainly tickle your fancy. Anyway, that is it for this episode of But Is It Power Pop? I hope you enjoyed yourself. And remember to catch my reviews on DiscussionsMagazine.com. My podcast, Beach Blanket Fort Bingo, my radio show, Skibbed Album with SPAZ, and check out my new comic book videos called Comically Speaking with SPAZ. And until the next time we talk Power Pop, smell you later.